Good morning. It is 9:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can listen to us wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, the 99.7 WTN app. You can watch us on Super Talk TV on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can catch the podcast on demand on Apple and Spotify. You can find me off the air. Anything we talk about, I'm usually tweeting about. I'm on True Social, Instagram, and Twitter at Chris Hand on Air. And real quick, we do have a big party happening for the debate. If the debate should happen, if it should go on as scheduled, Scoreboard, Cedar Creek, Mount Juliet. Brian Wilson's going to be doing his show out there live starting at 3 o'clock on September 10th, and then the whole gang is arriving. We'll broadcast live, and we'll watch the debate together.
I don't know why all these parties happen to get scheduled the week that I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
I travel not that often ever. I'm constantly working, and every time I want to be able to come to one of these events, because I heard how great the last one was.
The last one was wild.
I heard it was awesome, and it was right in my backyard that time.
Yeah, those are the breaks, man. Those are the breaks. Yeah, no, the last one at Hop Springs was just fire. I never want to go back. I never want to go back to watching a debate the other way.
How could you?
I never want to. Kamala Harris doesn't really want to go to do a debate at all, it seems like.
It doesn't seem like she wants to have a conversation with anybody.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so yesterday, Donald Trump was at Arlington Cemetery honoring the 13 U.S. service members who lost their lives at the Abbey Gate bombing. And it was a very cool moment to watch. You know, to watch Donald Trump in those moments. He's so presidential. He's so respectful. He's not staring at his watch. You know, he does the right things. And at the time, yesterday, while this was happening, we said, well, where's Joe Biden? Well, he's on vacation. Well, where's Kamala Harris? Oh, she couldn't be bothered. Nothing on her schedule. And we thought, wow, that is really, really disrespectful. You couldn't send anyone from the current administration, Biden or Harris, down there.
Well, they're too tired from the DNC because they did so much.
It's such a joke. But actually, the reality is even far worse. It actually turns out that the families of the service members that were killed in Afghanistan at the Abbey Gate bombing invited Donald Trump, and they didn't invite Biden and Harris.
Goodness gracious.
That makes it even worse for the Biden-Harris administration. They didn't even want you there.
I mean, who would with a decision like that was made?
What an indictment on that administration. Kamala Harris was the last person in the room. She said it herself, and she said that she was comfortable with the decision, and it was a failure, and an absolute failure. Donald Trump, however, after the Arlington Cemetery visit, he went to the National Guard Association, and he says this, and you know what? The service members believe him when he says it.
I've had no greater honor in life than to serve as your commander-in-chief. And you are always ready and always there for us and for the President of the United States. You are always there for me, I will tell you. And I'm always going to be there for you.
And people believe him when he says it. People believe him when he says it. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? While he was at the National Guard Association, Donald Trump picked up another massive endorsement, this time from Tulsi Gabbard, who I've been critical in the past. I didn't want her as VP. I thought she was too close to the Democrat Party. In 2020, she ran for president on the Democrat side, and I didn't want her as VP. However, when you're building a team of rivals, I think she's a good fit. And for her to come into the fold and endorse Donald Trump, it's another sign that we're forming something really special over on this side.
So I mean what I say when I share with you that I know that President Trump understands the grave responsibility that a president and commander-in-chief bears for every single one of our lives. Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort.
The pursuit of peace. If your goal this election season is to continue the pursuit of peace, who do you think it's going to be with? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris?
The truth is, as we head towards our decision as a country in November, the same cannot be said about Kamala Harris. In fact, the opposite is true, and we're living through this reality today as this administration has us facing multiple wars on multiple fronts in regions around the world and closer to the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief.
It's a big endorsement. It's a big endorsement. Tulsi Gabbard became disillusioned with the Democrat Party when she took out Kamala Harris on the debate stage in the primaries in 2019 in Detroit. And from that moment on, because if you remember, they wanted to crown Kamala Harris in 2020. They wanted to. That was their pick. She checked all the boxes. But Tulsi Gabbard ruined that. She ruined that in Detroit when she called out Kamala Harris for her convictions against black men on marijuana, laughing about it when she smoked marijuana on her own, calling out her past as a prosecutor in front of a room full of black mothers in Detroit. And they all went, yeah, no, hard pass. Hard pass. But at that point in 2019, the Democrat establishment wanted Kamala then, and they want her now. Tulsi Gabbard is saying she's going to do everything in her power to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I'm here for it. I am.
Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war.
That will be Donald Trump's first task. Walk us back. Under Biden-Harris, we've gone right to the edge and we're looking over. Whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's in Russia and Ukraine or the South China Sea, you can look around the globe, instability everywhere, and that comes from weak leadership up top. We don't have to go into it, but you understand. This was not the scenario when Donald Trump was in office. This was not the scenario. It is today in 2024. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't want that scenario to play out.
We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace.
Amen. And
we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat. Kamala Harris has done this over the last 3.5 years. She won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target, added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as president. We as Americans must stand together to reject this anti-freedom culture of political retaliation and abuse of power. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
That's Tulsi Gabbard giving her full support to Donald Trump. And you mentioned there, she mentioned there how she's under a watch list. Tulsi Gabbard was added to a TSA watch list. Unbelievable. But that's the Biden-Harris administration. And Hawaii lawmakers were calling on the director of the TSA for answers as to why she was included on a suspected terror watch list. Why? Well, you know, she's a Russian plant, according to Hillary Clinton, right? The whole thing was an absolute joke. She should have never been on a terror watch list. She was covered under the Quiet Skies program. Quiet Skies. A spokesperson responded with a statement from Gabbard herself when talking about the TSA watch list, and she said, "This is clearly an act of political retaliation. It's no accident I was placed on the Quiet Skies list the day after I did a primetime interview warning the American people about how and why Kamala Harris would be bad for our country if elected as president and commander-in-chief. What hurts me the most is the fact, like so many Americans, I enlisted because of the terrorist attack on 9/11, deployed to war zones to go after those terrorists, still serve in the U.S. Army for over 21 years, and now my government is surveilling me as a potential domestic terrorist. The real pain this has caused me is the stress of forever looking over my shoulder, wondering if and how I am being watched, what secret terror watch list I'm on, and having no transparency or due process. It's not just about me. Every American has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They have taken that away from me and my family. It's a sham that they put her on this list, but this is the Democrat Party in 2024. You say something bad about us, you're probably going to end up on a list. And they yell and scream and say we're fascists on the conservative side. That's what they do. But Tulsi says if you love our country, you got to vote Donald Trump. If you love our country, vote Trump.
I am proud to stand here before you today, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. If you love our country, as I do, if you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House to do the tough work of saving our country and serving the people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
It's a big endorsement, and I'm here for it. On Twitter yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy said the Justice League just got their Wonder Woman. That was his post. And it got me thinking, like, what does Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have in common? Besides being disillusioned Democrats, Donald Trump is forming a coalition of the unafraid. He is. You look at Elon Musk and what he's facing over in Europe, he's absolutely unafraid. You look at RFK and what he's been talking about, he's unafraid. Tulsi Gabbard, she's unafraid. Tulsi Gabbard also has something else in common with RFK. She's unafraid to talk about Ukraine biolabs.
If you happen to challenge them, whether it be on COVID or it be on things like it, and this was, I think this was the thing that caused Mitt Romney to call me a treasonous liar, was saying, hey, there are U.S. funded, DOD funded biolabs in Ukraine that should be secured because there's a war going on over there. And the last thing we or the world needs is anything going on in those biolabs being unleashed in a way that could pose a threat.
That doesn't seem like a radical statement to make, but it was. And in her own words, she said that statement made Mitt Romney call her treasonous. Well, I think that we do need to have a conversation about U.S. DOD-funded biolabs in this country and Ukraine, and I think we need to have the conversation in this country. RFK isn't afraid to have that conversation. RFK, about a year ago, it was August of 2023, he was giving one of his first interviews to Tucker, and he was going all in on the U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine.
Because Toria Nuland kind of blithely announced during congressional testimony last year that, oh, by the way, we have these biolabs in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of ignored, and the people who covered it got attacked for covering it. But the fact remains there are U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. Why would we have biolabs in Ukraine?
We have biolabs in Ukraine because we're developing bioweapons. And
we have biolabs in Ukraine because we're developing bioweapons, which is one of the same things that you weren't allowed to talk about on Facebook when COVID happened, were biolabs and bioweapons. Mark Zuckerberg recently has really pulled back the veil, breaking last night, but something we've all known for a while. The U.S. pressured him to censor COVID information on Facebook, the White House, the Biden-Harris administration. And one of the things that they were censoring was the lab leak theory. And maybe the U.S. government wanted to censor it because they didn't want to have that conversation because they're doing some of these exact same things. And if the public found out about it, they wouldn't be too fond of it. Well, we're forming a coalition that's going to be unafraid to have these conversations. Completely unafraid. And I'm here for it. I really am. And I'm looking forward to having more of these conversations. And I'm glad that Mark Zuckerberg has stepped back from the censorship industrial complex that he once thrived under. I'm going to bring you what Mark Zuckerberg said about what the White House told him and how he felt during that time. The timing is crazy. Why is he doing it? Why is he having a sudden change of heart? We'll talk about it next. It's 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Got him. Israel rescues another hostage, and we'll tell you which state official is brushing off claims of price gouging at the grocery store, coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 9:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name's Chris Hand. So they're saying this is breaking news. Mark Zuckerberg admits Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans, and he went along with it. It's not breaking to anybody that's been paying attention. It's just not. It's breaking in the sense that he's admitting it. It's breaking in the sense that there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on the story. But this isn't really much that's new. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. That's from Mark Zuckerberg himself. So this is just happening yesterday. Zuckerberg is admitting that Biden-Harris and that regime pressured the platform to censor Americans, that he went along with it. He did their bidding, censoring and suppressing COVID stories down to satire and humor, suppressing and censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story of October of 2020, and other things. In a letter to the Judiciary Committee Chair, Jim Jordan, Zuckerberg wrote that there's a lot of talk right now around how the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. And I want to be clear about our position. He emphasized that the platform is about promoting free speech and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. Then he dropped the bomb that in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Mark Zuckerberg just admitted three things the House Judiciary Committee said in a response to the letter. 1, the Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans. 2, Facebook censored Americans. 3, Facebook throttled the Hunter Biden laptop story. Big win for free speech. Yeah, in retrospect, it's a big win for free speech. I wonder about the timing of all this. And I think maybe Zuckerberg sees the writing on the wall and doesn't want a Trump administration coming after Facebook, so he's trying to get out in front of it. Maybe it's less to do with being brave and honest and more to do with being afraid and realizing you've been found out. The letter was a result of the of Jim Jordan and the Judiciary Committee's investigation into the alleged campaign by the Biden-Harris administration. Jordan released numerous Facebook files exposing censorship and pressure by the administration. We've all seen the Twitter files. And ultimately, he continued, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. It's nice of you to say that now, Mark. It's nice of you to say that now. Where were you when Americans were being locked down and losing their jobs or demonized and vilified in public by just about everyone? He goes on to say, I also think we made some choices that with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Yep, I think that's fair. He said that the platform should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. He wrote that the platform is ready to push back if something like this happens again. Well, good to know that you found your spine. I hope nothing like this ever happens again. I still don't trust Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. On the way, I want to play you some great audio from RFK and Tucker Carlson. They sat down for an interview yesterday. It was fantastic. They go through everything. Like, will he take the job to be the head of the CIA? I'll play you that audio next. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Still got a crash blocking your way 24 westbound right before Harding Place in Antioch. You got the left 2 lanes blocked there. The Israeli military says it rescued one of the more than 100 hostages still being held captive in Gaza. The hostage, a 52-year-old, is also said to be in good medical condition and was already reunited with his family. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari says the hostage was rescued from a tunnel in Gaza.
We cannot go into many details of this special operation, but I can share that Israeli commandos rescued Qaid Farhan al-Qadi from an underground tunnel following accurate intelligence.
This is the 8th time the IDF has rescued a hostage still alive from Gaza, but it's the first time someone was rescued in the massive tunnel network there. President Biden's national security advisor Jake Sullivan has arrived in Beijing for 3 days of meetings with his Chinese counterpart. Carson Yu reports from Hong Kong.
This is the first visit by a U.S. national security advisor to the Chinese capital in 8 years. And over the next few days, both sides are expected to talk through the thorny issues vexing U.S.-China relations.
We are working to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict, and that we find ways to work together where our interests align.
Sullivan is expected to raise concerns over China's continued support of Russia's defense industry, as well as convey the Biden administration's position on growing tensions in the South China Sea and over Taiwan.
Tennessee's Attorney General brushing off demands from a couple of Nashville Democratic state senators to investigate price gouging at grocery stores. Jonathan Skermetti says higher prices are likely due to bad federal policy, inflation, bird flu, and disruptions to Ukraine's grain production. Tennessee grocers say they're not getting rich off their industry, saying their profit margin is just 1.6% now because of the high cost of labor and energy, among other things. That's the latest news. Weather is next, and I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand here to tell you about a brand new sponsor of the show. We're so happy to have them, Kingdom Fence Company. These guys are fantastic, and if you have kids or pets, you understand how underrated a fence can be, and you want to have a fence company that you can trust. Well, depending on what kind of fence you need, these guys can help you no matter what. Chain link fences, privacy fences, vinyl fences, aluminum fences, dog fences, pool fences, and more. Kingdom Fence Company has you covered. They're great guys in the industry. They do great work. They let their faith guide them in their business so you can put faith in their fence. Kingdom Fence Company, LLC.com, 615-390-5891. That's 615-390-5891.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
9:38 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. I've reposted a lot of these interviews that we're going to be playing clips from today, whether it's the Trump-Sean Ryan interview, the RFK Tucker Carlson interview, which we're about to get into. There's just been so much content. It's been really nice to be conservative lately. You know, for a while we went through that lull where all the content out there was just woke trash. But now we're getting like mountains upon mountains of good content, no matter what. Like last week we had the DNC, but we also had the Theo Von Donald Trump podcast, which was fantastic. Like there's a lot more options, is what I'm trying to say, of what to watch, how to spend your time. It's not just one news channel anymore. For a while it was Tucker Carlson at 8 o'clock on Fox. And that was the best you got. That was it. That 1 hour every day. It's not the case anymore. It's just not. And we're blessed by that. And shout out to Elon Musk for giving us a free speech platform. Seriously. So RFK sat down on this free speech platform, did an interview with Tucker Carlson, and they went over a bunch of things. One of the first things that really piqued my interest, RFK was asked by Tucker, would you run the CIA?
So the CIA, I mean, a lot of roads lead back, unfortunately, to our most powerful intelligence agency. If you were asked, would you run it? Would you become CIA director if you were asked?
I would never get, yes, I would, but I would never get Senate confirmation. As you know, the intelligence agency are protected by very, very powerful committees in the Senate and in the House that are already into the project, and the people who serve on those committees are people who would, they would not, they're just safeguarding that directorship, and I would be very, very dangerous for those committees. So I don't think that.
So I would never be confirmed is essentially what he said. Would he do it? Yes. But he says he would never be confirmed because he would be dangerous for that organization. And I think my head goes to, well, that's exactly why we would want you there, right? That's exactly why we would want a guy like RFK there, because we need to upset the apple cart on some of these intelligence agencies, no? But he says he'd never get confirmed. The gatekeepers wouldn't let him in. And then the conversation continues, and it goes to the introduction that he received at the Arizona rally, where Trump said, we're gonna start a commission and we're going to declassify the JFK documents. But Tucker brings up the point, and I'm sure you thought of this, remembered this as well. Trump already said once he was going to declassify the JFK documents. So the promise is a little bit surprising, I guess, in a sense, because it was something that he should have already done.
And yet in his, in your joint appearance on Friday, President Trump introduced you by saying that he plans to, if elected, establish a commission to declassify the remaining documents around your uncle's murder in 1963.
Yeah.
And I think everyone at this point knows the truth, which is the CIA is implicated in that. Those documents protect CIA, maybe among others.
Tucker just going full scorched earth. Well, everybody knows the truth. They didn't release them because the CIA is implicated in those documents. Possibly. It's definitely within the realm of possibility.
Well, whether they do or not, I mean, it's odd that they've not allowed them to be released.
What could possibly be the explanation?
More than 60 years after my uncle's death, almost 65 years, 62 years after his death. And none of the people who were implicated in that crime are alive now.
Yes.
And the last ones have died off in the last year or two.
Yeah, nobody's even alive anymore. So what's the point in having these documents classified? Well, everything I read is it either implicates our own intelligence forces or other countries' intelligence agencies. So that would be the reason, I guess, why they wouldn't. And RFK goes a step further and he says, well, the only reason they're not declassifying is to protect the institution.
It clearly is to protect the institution.
Yes.
And that's wrong. It's just wrong. And it's wrong for a Democrat and it's wrong for Republicans.
It's just interesting, though, that a bipartisan list of presidents, these 6 decades, have kept those files classified.
that it is interesting. But isn't the rumor that everybody gets a meeting with the CIA and they just essentially show them a picture of JFK in the limousine? Isn't that what the conversation is online? Hey, fall in line. Look at this picture. Oh, geez. Yikes. Okay. I guess I'll fall in line. Now, this is just the conversation on the internet. Obviously, I don't know if it's true. The documents aren't declassified. But RFK says he was astonished that Trump didn't declassify those documents.
Well, you and I have both. I was astonished that Trump didn't declassify them because he promised to during the campaign.
That was Mike Pompeo who did that.
Yeah, and that I talked to President Trump for the first time about that this week. And
what did he say?
He said that Mike Pompeo begged him.
Mike Pompeo begged him to not release the JFK documents. That's interesting. I remember a lot of people wanted Mike Pompeo to be VP. In our listening audience, I would receive texts when we were doing, the VP conversations. It was easy radio. Who would you like to be VP? People would say Pompeo, and it would just blow my mind. Pompeo tried to get Julian Assange assassinated in the Ecuadorian embassy. Pompeo is as deep state as it gets.
And I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here.
No,
I think he told the same thing to you.
That's true.
But he said Mike Pompeo called him and said this would be a catastrophe to release these. You need to not do it. And
I want to say again, I think Mike Pompeo is a criminal. So that's my view. He's threatened to sue me for saying that, but I hope he will because that's true.
Again, Tucker's alluding to the Julian Assange assassination plot at the Ecuadorian embassy. But he says it would be a catastrophe to the institution. Well, listen, I mean, if you're following logic and reason, which is dangerous these days, one would only be safe to assume that the documents do implicate the CIA, right? I don't know. I haven't seen the documents. But if Mike Pompeo is begging Donald Trump not to release them, and his reasoning is it would be catastrophic to the institution, what other conclusions can we draw?
But that kind of tells the whole story right there, right? That the CIA is...
Well, yeah, so that's the
why would the CIA be trying to keep these files classified if they had nothing to do with the murder? I don't really get that.
No, I don't think anybody does, except at the same time, we do get it, because anybody that's been paying attention probably already came to this conclusion quite a long time ago. I don't know if it's true. It just seems to me that would be the most logical reason why they wouldn't want it released. Either that, or it implicates an ally of some sort, right? There would have to be either domestic implications or foreign policy implications. Those are the only two reasons that I could understand why you wouldn't release them. That's it. But Trump is now saying, he's going to put a commission together and they're going to get him released. It does bug me a little bit, and that did bug me about Trump. And anytime people are like, "Ooh, I have all these classified documents, and I'm gonna leak them a little bit and a little bit and a little bit," it's like, put them on the internet, dude. Just stop talking and release them, and let the public do with them as they may. Either you're going to release them or you're not. But we don't need the song and dance. Like in the internet age, we're tired of the song and dance. Give me the information. Trust the American people to make a judgment based upon the information that's released. Can we do that? Now, until we can do that, what the federal government is essentially saying is they don't trust you. They don't trust you with real information to make a real decision. And if the government doesn't trust the people, well, then we have bigger issues in this country. And I think we can look, especially at the left, and say the government doesn't trust the people. And RFK, in this interview with Tucker, makes those points about the left. And he says, look at what they've done. They've gotten a man with dementia elected. Now they have a woman that can't give an interview. And it's because the Democrats have abandoned the people. They've abandoned the people. They don't trust them anymore. And we've seen the Democrat Party go from the party of the people to this authoritarian party that demands you fall in line no matter what, or they're going to censor you on the internet. And I think the tides are turning. And I think this is, again, why Mark Zuckerberg had to get out in front and say, oh, yeah, Biden-Harris did pressure us, and it was wrong. And we hope we hope that we can stand up to those bullies next time, should it ever happen again. Because, gosh darn it, we were the victims. That's what the left always does, right? They play the victim. So this is what they're doing. But we are dealing with authoritarians on the left.
We have in one party selected a man with dementia to lead the free world, and then turned around and picked a person, a woman who cannot give an interview. She cannot defend her vision or America's record in the world. And then she gave this, Vice President Harris gave this speech at the convention that was written by neocons. And they had CIA directors talking at the Democratic Convention, military people talking at the Democratic Convention.
Yep, they did. Leon Panetta was at the Democratic Convention. They've become from the party of anti-war to the party of pro-war. And again, they're just gaslighting their voters because they don't trust the American people. And RFK makes the point that not only do they not trust the people, they've abandoned the people.
If you really look at what's happening in the Democratic Party today, it's a party that the word demos in Greek means people. But it's a party that's lost faith in the people. It's a party that needs ironclad control. So they didn't trust anybody to have a real election. They got rid of the primaries because they didn't trust the people. They then handpicked Vice President Harris with no election, no even pretense of election, because they didn't trust the people. And, they're the party now of censorship.
Party of censorship. They don't trust the people. These are all things you and I have known for a while. But a lot of people on the left are now waking up to it. And it's good to see. We don't need to push those people away. We need to welcome them in. And if you've been with us for a couple years, maybe you woke up during COVID. You're probably really quick to remember how you woke up. And then you start looking around and realizing they've been lying about everything. Everything. And we gotta essentially shepherd those people in and say, yeah, we know it's bad. And then say, we're going to fix it. That's the game plan, right? But we have to win in November. We have to be making those phone calls, be talking to friends out of state, be reaching out to people in swing states, and winning in November. Now's not the time to rest. Now's the time to put the foot on the gas. I have more from the RFK Tucker interview on the way. He's asked about the Pavel Durov arrest, the Telegram CEO. Another example of censorship, not just here domestically, but globally. That's up next. It's 9:52 on Super Talk. It's Chris Hand from my friends at the Glock store. We talk a lot about these guys. It's the best place to buy a Glock. They have every Glock in stock. It's the best place to learn. That's where I train. They have private shooting rooms, private lessons with a private instructor, not an open lane range shooting next to who knows who. They have the best places to compete. They have the USPSA and low light, no light open competitions every single month. And now it's the best place to party. I really want somebody to invite me to one of these parties. Please, no matter what it is, if it's a birthday party or a retirement party or a corporate team building, if you're going to do it at the Glock store, shoot me an invite, please. Because these parties are fantastic. They include a VIP room with a full kitchen, dedicated shooting rooms. You get your own instructors. You get shooting activities designed for every level. You get all the ammo, and they even give you full auto options. To get your party started, email party@glockstore.com. That's party@glockstore.com. The Glock Store, my place to shoot, everyone's place to party. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
So who is running the country? The White House is speaking out. And have you blurred your home yet? We'll explain why you might want to do it. Coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 9:58 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Got a text here from 0095. Question. I love it when it starts like that. Question. I see your Prez debate party, but will there even be one? With the thinking face emoji. I think so. I think we're going to get the debate.
I think so too. I feel like there's so much obligation that's been pushed onto it now.
There's a lot of bluster from both sides at this point.
If they back off, 100% her polling tanks, right?
Well, I think her polling is going to tank here in the coming days anyway.
I mean, yeah, of course, but just on top of what they're already dealing with is wild.
I think the real question is if you don't watch the debate live, are you going to get the real story? Probably not. You're going to get censorship from the mainstream media. You're going to get lies, and they'll clip Trump out of context. You know, we've seen that social media is under attack. Pavel Durov is the CEO of Telegram. He was arrested yesterday in France. RFK was asked about that.
You see the Biden administration encouraging France, Macron, to arrest the owner and founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, who's now, as of right now, in a French prison. That seems like, that's the hallmark of dictatorship, it sounds to me.
Yeah, well, we've lost Europe.
We've lost Europe. I think that might be an understatement. We've lost Europe. Well, we'll talk more about that after the break. And don't forget, our presidential debate party is on September 10th. Mount Juliet, Scoreboard, Cedar Creek. It's going to be a blast. Myself, Murphy, Mandis, the whole squad. More audio from RFK and Tucker Carlson after the break. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. It could be hotter today than it was yesterday. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. But right now, the White House is speaking out about exactly who is running the country. While President Joe Biden's on his second week of vacation and Vice President Kamala Harris has been out of the view of cameras for days. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby bristling at the question posed by reporters on a Zoom call. He told them, quote, "The president is on vacation, but you can never unplug and from a job like that, nor does he try to. He's very much in command." Well, Biden and his family have just returned from a California vacation and jetted off to their Delaware beach estate where he remains on vacation. Meantime, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan's arrived in Beijing today for a 3-day meeting with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Sullivan says the visit is aimed at maintaining dialogue between the geopolitical rivals.
Working to ensure the competition does not veer into conflict, and that we find ways to work together where our interests align.
The Israeli military has rescued a hostage today, celebrating after the 52-year-old man was located inside a tunnel. He's been reunited with his family, and he's in stable condition. Britt Clinette says there are so many others.
There are 108 hostages left. It's just not clear how many of them have died already. Just last week, there was news that 6 bodies were recovered by the IDF from Gaza. So, the hostage families that we speak to are disparaged. They're frustrated.
But IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari says Israel won't quit until everyone is rescued.
We will pursue the return of our hostages through all means possible. I repeat, through all means possible.
Florida is joining 26 states, including Tennessee, in enforcing bans or restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors. A federal appeals court issued a ruling yesterday that allows Florida to block minors from being prescribed puberty blockers and hormonal treatments, even with their parents' permission. Florida will also block adults from receiving transgender treatment from nurses or other medical practitioners, only allowing care from a doctor. And with terrifying stories about home invasions and break-ins making headlines nationwide, one way to keep burglars away from your house might be to make your home a little less visible. Here's Jim Ryan.
There's no hard evidence that burglars are using Google Street View to plan their break-ins, but, says law enforcement specialist Bruce Thomas,
they're probably using all sorts of social media tools to gain intelligence, just as we as police officers do.
You can find your own home on Street View, click Report a Problem, and find the option to blur your place out. It's no guarantee against a break-in, but Thomas says,
what a great idea to harden your target, to make your residents a little more anonymous.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Ken Weaver's newscast inspired me once again. I always find myself inspired by Ken's newscast.
Well, thank you, Brother Chris Hand.
I found out how to blur my house on Google Street View.
That's a good idea, dude.
Listen, if you want to know how to do it, I tweeted out the instructions.
Yeah.
At Chris Hand on air. It's actually super easy. It'll take 2 minutes.
Now I got to figure out how to blur out the image of my TV when they're watching me.
Yeah, honestly. How do I make my phone stop listening to me? Hey Siri. Yeah, there's a lot of other things we need to help with. But if you want to know how to blur your Google Street View of your house, you can hop over to my Twitter at Chris Hand on air. Thanks, Ken. Things I didn't know I needed to do that I need to do now. My list gets longer.
You're welcome, Brother Chris Hand.
Thanks, bro. All right, so we were talking about RFK Jr. and his interview with Tucker Carlson. I think it was a fantastic interview. RFK does a good interview. He's a smart guy. If you can get over the voice, you can actually learn a lot. And he was asked about what he's going to do in the Trump administration. And while he doesn't exactly have a role just yet, he did say there's no way he'll be CIA director because there's no way he'll be confirmed. He did say he's going to be part of the transition team, which is massive.
How do you spend from here until Election Day?
I'm going to work to get him elected. And I'm working with the campaign. We're working on policy issues together. I've been asked to go onto the transition team and, to help pick the people who will be running the government And I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that, too. I think if there's anything you can really knock Trump on for his first term was poor hires. The suggestions that he got from rhinos and neocons, he admits it himself, really led him down a tough path, a tough road to recovery as he was trying to get his presidential administration off the ground. He didn't know anybody in D.C., so he was left to rely on the recommendations of some people that didn't have his best interest at heart. And some of those recommendations he took as a way to kind of mend relationships with the Republican establishment that didn't really want to mend relationships with him at all. And it really hamstrung him for a while. I think getting a guy in here like RFK, who is principled and is going to help you find principled people for specific positions, is solid. He doesn't have to take every recommendation, but to have a guy out like that who is outside the elite political establishment, recommending people outside the elite political establishment for gigs, I think that's a net positive. And if that's all he ends up doing, I still think it's going to be a net positive. I do think they're going to find some space for him somewhere in the administration, whether it's Health and Human Services or the FDA or the CDC or the NI. They're going to find somewhere for him. But this is a good start. And having RFK there to help these hires get along and get off the ground, I think that's awesome. Huge. And then he talks about Pavel Durov. Free speech is under attack globally. It's not just in America. It's around the globe. And the Telegram CEO, founder, Pavel Durov, was arrested in France. He was arrested in France under the reason they arrested him is because of a lack of moderation on the platform. A lack of moderation. Well, it's a free speech platform. They didn't want moderation. Well, that got him arrested in France.
You see the Biden administration encouraging France, Macron, to arrest the owner and founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, who's now, as of right now, in a French prison. That seems like, that's the hallmark of dictatorship, it sounds to me.
Yeah, well, we've lost Europe. Europe does not have free speech.
No, not in the least bit. You're going to jail over Facebook posts in England. You can't run a free speech platform and land your plane in France. You see multiple countries, the EU, going after Elon Musk for daring to have an interview with Donald Trump on Twitter Spaces. There's no free speech, which makes free speech here all that more important. It's been said many times that if America falls, there's nobody else that's going to fill that void. And you look at the First Amendment. If our First Amendment falls, what other country is going to step up and fill that vacuum? Luckily, we have guys like Elon Musk who are willing to risk it all to run a free speech platform like Twitter. And RFK makes the point that in years past, if this was a different time period, Elon Musk would be a hero of the Democrat Party. But today, because the Democrat Party has changed, there's just no way he can be a hero. He's a villain.
Look what's happened to Elon Musk. And here, Elon Musk should be the hero of the Democratic Party. Of the old Democratic Party, he wouldn't be the hero. Somehow he became a villain because he was actually the only platform that would allow free speech on his platform. And he's now become a villain because of it, because the Democratic Party does not believe in the people. If you don't believe in free speech, it means because you don't trust the people. You don't trust them to figure it out on their own, to have information on which they can base their ideas and their notions and their beliefs.
And their votes.
And that the government has to protect them from dangerous information, from things that might put bad ideas into their heads. And it's very patronizing, but it's also very manipulative and conniving, and really it's exactly the opposite of democracy. And you will not find a single Democrat who will criticize it.
No, you won't. You can't criticize the Democrat Party anymore if you're on the left. They'll throw you out. But he says it's manipulative, it's conniving. Yeah, that describes the modern Democrat Party. I'm reading the text messages that clip is playing, and I got a text here from 5019 about RFK being on the transition team and helping with some hires. He said, too much risk that RFK would recommend leftist since he's still a Dem at heart. Yeah, but it's just recommendations. Donald Trump doesn't have to take them, right? Also, we had a lot of risk taking recommendations from rhinos. There's going to be inherent risk no matter which route you go. Just plain and simple.
The most radical step you can make.
I'd rather have somebody that is not going to be bought and paid for by corrupt elite politics. That's what I would rather have. And that's RFK Jr. He's not bought and paid for. Tucker asked him, but how did you come to this point where you're going to endorse Donald Trump? How did you get here?
The most radical step you can make if you're a Democrat is endorsing Donald Trump.
Yep, easy.
So there are political calculations involved, there are ideological calculations, but there are also, of course, personal calculations. So once you do that, you've burned your boats. Like, that's it. You're not going back to wherever you were 10 years ago. How hard a decision was that for you personally?
It was it was an obvious decision for me. It should have been, but it was a very, very difficult decision. And we had, I have a very, very good team around me. And I was most worried about my wife, who was, about Cheryl, who, it was not comfortable with it. She's a lifelong Democrat. She comes from not the aristocracy. She comes from a very, I would say poor family in North Florida, but she found her way through idealism to the Democratic Party, and and she shares a lot of those values. So and her industry is very, very much aligned with the Democratic Party, probably more than any industry in our country and more than any town in our country. So this, for me, was likely to have huge impacts on her. And ultimately, if she had told me, you can't do this, I wouldn't have done it.
If RFK's wife had told him he can't do this, he wouldn't have done it. I respect that. On a smaller scale, he says his wife is an idealist and a Democrat and aligns with a lot of those those policies of that party. My wife worked for the record industry, and while she wasn't a Democrat by any means, she voted Trump in 2016 and in 2020, and she wasn't a Democrat. But I can understand that kind of calculation. You got to worry about your family first. If you can't take care of your family, how can you take care of your neighborhood? If you can't take care of your neighborhood, how can you take care of your town? If you can't take care of your town, your state, your country, I understand the ripple effect on that. And on a smaller scale, me and my wife had that conversation before I started working here and working with Turning Point USA and doing the things that I'm doing, because she worked in a very liberal industry. And there's millions of Americans out there who have made that same calculation and realized that in order to provide for their family, it's better to keep quiet. And I don't fault you for that. But I think it's very humanizing to hear that even a guy like RFK had to have that talk where it's like, okay, this is what I want to do, and they're going to attack me for it. They're going to. And they have. They have attacked him for it. And it's risky. What if it doesn't work out? You're burning your bridges. 100%. It is. It is a risky thing to do. But he says, once the wife gave me the green light, I was off. He even said in one interview that his wife encouraged him to go to Bedminster to talk to Trump in person. She was in. She was on board for this. So his wife went for it, and then he sat down and he talked with everybody else, his team, and everybody with views that agreed with him doing it and views that disagreed with him doing it.
But I'm very grateful that she overcame. She allowed me to do it. She was not embracing it, but she said, I understand why you have to do this. And we had a 4-day meeting up in Hyannisport in my home, where kind of everybody, my family members, my kids, many other people, Tony Robbins attended remotely, and a number of other kind of spiritual leaders, just people who cared deeply about our country, chimed in and made case on both sides. And people from the campaign organization did.
So all hands on deck, team meeting. We got to talk this over. People that agree, people that disagree. I need to hear from you. That's what he says. I like it. I like that he has that realization that this is a team move. He's got a lot of people depending on him. I like that it wasn't made in haste. I got a text here from 6081. He said, thank you for saying that. My wife works for a company. They're a nationwide corporation, and she has to utterly disguise her politics in order for our family to maintain a standard of living, and it sucks. I totally get it, man. I really do. And I feel for you. We've been there before. During the pandemic, while everything was going down, my wife is working for a major record company, and I remember I had to hide my memes on Instagram from some of her coworkers. Like we've all been there. It's an indictment of the state of the country where you can't just share your political beliefs. But make no mistake, that's only coming from one side, right? Conservatives don't fire you for being a liberal. Liberals fire you for being a conservative. Isn't that weird how that works out? Every single time. Every single time. So RFK talked with the team. They were in. The rest was history. Are there going to be more Democrats coming up next? Could Cornell West find himself lining up with RFK and Donald Trump? I think that might actually be a realistic possibility. I'll play you a couple clips that illustrate why. If you don't know who Cornell West is, I don't blame you. Hardcore leftist. Hardcore. He's also running for president. And he says a couple things in a few interviews that makes me go, I could see you saying Harris isn't the move. I really could. I'll play you those clips next. It's 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
A high school locked down 80 miles east of Nashville, and Mark Zuckerberg makes a promise after admitting he caved to Biden administration pressure. Coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, he caved, all right. I think he's scared of what the future may hold. That's just my take. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for tuning into the show. We appreciate you. If you miss anything, podcasts are always available on Apple and Spotify. You can watch the show on Super Talk TV, which is on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can listen to us anywhere with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, or our own app, 99.7 WTN. That's free. It's in the App Store. Go find it. We were talking about RFK Jr. and Democrats coming into the fold, which is just what a timeline to be living in, right? I mean, we've had RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and could Cornell West be next? Could Cornell West be next? I don't know. But I did see RFK tweeting at him last night. As Cornell West is running for president, he's a hardcore leftist. I don't think that he would be allowed anywhere near the Trump administration. But if he wants to see done what he's talking about here, I don't know how you would support Harris after what she did under COVID. He posted on Twitter, "Brothers and sisters, it's time we commit to understanding and addressing the role of the pharmaceutical influence in public policy." Talking about COVID-19.
I want to speak to my brothers and sisters of all colors who are concerned about not just the vaccine, but the role of the pharmaceutical company in shaping public policy, not allowing the various voices to be heard, the role of censorship, the attempt to impose closure on various voices that would help us understand what's really going on when it comes to healthcare policy vis-a-vis vaccine. I want a truth commission to find out what happened in the past, and I want to make sure that each and every one of us have fair access to the truth.
That's Cornell West. He's running for president, and he has no chance of winning. But it sounds like he's aligned a lot with what RFK Jr. is saying. It sounds like he's aligned a lot with what conservatives are saying and thinking when it comes to the medical industrial complex, how they shape public policy during COVID, and how they censored voices from speaking out. Robert F. Kennedy posted that clip and said he's so happy to see a prominent leftist say this. Medical mandates and lockdowns did the most harm to those who were already the most vulnerable. The working class, small business owners, and especially black people were devastated. 41% of black businesses closed, never to reopen. The billionaire class and mega corporations did just fine. Traditionally, it is the left that resists corporate profiteering and authoritarian policies, but during the COVID era, such resistance was branded right-wing. Entrenched powers tried to split us into left and right in order to fragment our resistance. It worked for a while, but now we are coming together again. Kudos to Cornell West for speaking out. That takes courage. If you're not careful, soon they'll be calling you a right-wing anti-vaxxer too. Isn't that the truth? You say anything and, oh my gosh, are you one of those right-wingers? Are the right-wingers in the room with you right now? It's crazy.
What?
I know. But Cornell West speaking out against the medical industrial complex. Robert F. Kennedy coming into the Trump administration because he wants to make America healthy again and rein in the medical industrial complex. Would Cornell West endorse a Trump ticket? Probably not. But I didn't think we'd be seeing RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. A year ago at this time, if you had told me RFK and Tulsi Gabbard were going to be endorsing Trump, I probably would have thought that wouldn't have happened either. And if anything's proven to me over this last year, 6 months to a year, is anything can happen between now and November 5th. Also, in a separate clip, Cornell West said that the Democrats offered to pay off his campaign debts along with a position in Harris's administration if he were to drop out and endorse Harris. They're throwing money at this guy.
Did they just one more on this? Did they offer you? Did they offer you a cabinet position, a lower position, and offer to pay off any of your campaign debt?
Well, they they offered serious substantive conversation about all of those that could lead toward some real
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
And
Yeah, they offered real conversation, substantive conversation about all of those, be it a cabinet position or paying off his campaign debt. The Democrats are slimy. Meanwhile, on the flip side, RFK gets offered a cabinet position. He hasn't been offered a cabinet position yet, but a place in the Trump campaign, a place on the transition team, just for hanging on to his principles and fighting for the causes that we can agree on. That's how you get things done. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. On the way, I want to play some audio from the Trump-Sean Ryan interview, which is just fantastic. There's so much content to get to. We have it all for you right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and a developing story 80 miles east of Nashville. Reports say a student is in custody after Cookeville High School was put on lockdown. The Putnam County Sheriff's Office says a student at the high school claimed to have a gun, which prompted the lockdown. That student in custody, and the lockdown has since been lifted. Facebook's founder coming clean about government pressure his company was under to censor certain content. Here's Stephen Portnoy with more in Washington.
In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee, Meta CEO and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg says it's true. His company did suppress links to stories about Hunter Biden's laptop. Zuckerberg says his firm, quote, temporarily demoted the New York Post's reporting after the FBI warned Meta about a potential Russian disinformation effort. Zuckerberg adds, it's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story.
A couple of big-time grocery stores want to merge their businesses, but Andrew Dembert tells us the federal government says not so fast.
The Federal Trade Commission is suing to stop the merger of Kroger and Albertsons, claiming it would lead to higher food prices and fewer jobs for union workers. The FTC also claims the merger could create a monopoly in some small towns. In her opening statement, the FTC lawyer saying stopping this multi-billion-dollar deal will keep in place the vigorous competition that acts as a check on rising grocery prices. But the grocery giants insist the $24 billion merger will benefit shoppers.
Meantime, Tennessee's Attorney General brushing off calls by a couple of Democratic state lawmakers in Nashville to investigate price gouging at grocery stores. Jonathan Skrmetti says it's more likely due to bad federal policy or bad luck, citing factors like inflation, bird flu, and disruptions to Ukraine's grain production. And Tennessee's grocers pushing back on price gouging claims, citing a mere 1.6% profit margin last year due to what they say were increased costs in labor, energy, transportation, and manufacturing. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 10:33 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand here for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. I don't want you to give me the crazy eyes when I tell you this, but it's September next week. And after that, fall is going to be in full swing. And then before you know it, your heat is going to need to be cranking. So have you gotten your heat serviced yet? I know it's still early, but it's time to start thinking about that. And if you're going to get your heat system serviced, do it the best way, the Busy Bee way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Because if you don't get it serviced, you don't get that annual maintenance, you're waiting for problems to pop up. So be proactive, keep your units in tip-top shape. Whether you need that annual maintenance, repair, or replacement plumbing, heating, or air system, the guys who I trust are over at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And if you do need to replace your system, maybe towards the end of last winter, your heat went out and you were running the fireplace. Well, you were not going to find a better replacement value on replacement systems than Busy Bee. They offer up to 12 months with no payment, no interest with approved credit. Busy Bee is your Rude Pro partner. Give them a call today at 615-775-7833. For satisfaction guaranteed, it's Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833. Online at busybehvac.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
.37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can watch the show on Super Talk TV, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can listen to the show with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app. Don't forget, September 10th, big party. Debate party. If you haven't been to one of our debate parties, full disclosure, I've only been to one. But I'll never go back to watching a debate another way again. We're going to be doing our debate party at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek in Mount Juliet. It's going to be awesome. Brian Wilson's going to be doing his whole show out there all afternoon. And then myself, Mandis, Murphy, Wilson, we're going to watch the debate with you. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I feel like I've been ready for this debate for a while. I'm ready. A couple people waiting on the line want to get their word in. Let's go to Steven in Paris. Steve, what's up? You're next on Super Talk.
Hey, Chris. Hey, man, I wanted to thank you for Friday sticking up for me. That guy called me an idiot. I know he's an all right dude, but, Matt in Smyrna, he's just Trump derangement syndrome, so he can't help it.
Yeah, that's all right. We love him anyway.
But, yeah, hey, I'm going to send my girlfriend up there because I'm not going to be able to make it, but I need your shirt size, dude. What's your T-shirt size?
All right. We'll talk about that offline, all right?
Okay, well, what I was just wanting to button down back on him was, about Comrade Snake Eyes. I mean, Kamala Harris, just wanting to say she was the last thing we heard from her. She was talking about we're not going back, and just wanted him to understand what MAGA stands for. Because when Trump wins, we are going back. And here's where we're going back. The schools are going back to teaching children the right things. the criminals are going back to jail. The people are going back to work.
Yep.
The illegal immigrants are going back where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
The police are going back to work, and the deep state Dems are going back to Washington to pack their bags and kick rocks. That's what I meant.
I'm with it, Steve. I appreciate the call, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon, all right?
Okay.
All right. Let's go to Danny in the borough. Danny, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Danny?
Hey, I just wanted to talk a few minutes to the people out there who may be on the fence, maybe a Matt and Smyrna type who's leaning the wrong way here. I had the unfortunate experience yesterday where me and the 5 people that reported to me were, unexpectedly laid off. And it happened because the industry that I'm in simply cannot bear the regulation and the cost increases and the inflation that's been brought on by the Harris and Biden administration.
Did you say you were laid off? Danny, did you say you were laid off yesterday?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. I really am.
Well, it's there's a situation where I really feel like the American people are for the first time ever having their own fate taken out of their hands. I'm not a blame shifter here, and I'm not here to point fingers, but me and my team never missed a goal that we're aiming for or a mark that we were meant to hit. And in the end, it's just not enough when you're going up against this federal infrastructure and this gang of bureaucrats that dictate so much in the American economy. We as a people cannot take this opportunity for granted. We cannot be stagnant, and we cannot sit by idly and just think that going out and voting is going to be enough. We have to do more. We have to spread the truth, and we have to be willing to put our own reputations on the line a little bit to speak truth to power.
Yep.
It's hard times around here, guys, and we're running out of time. There's not enough time to sit back and not take action. So if you can hear me now, just think about what I've said. Think about what it could mean to your family if we don't win, and just keep fighting with me, guys.
What industry are you in, Danny?
Logistics and transportation, sir.
Logistics and transportation. What did you do specifically?
I was a sales director and business development director for a large firm who unfortunately has to call back 3 different regions. There was Nashville, there was an Illinois, and a Ohio district office. They shut down all of them. So it was in total 35 people to consolidate what assets and ability and capital they have left to their home offices in central Kentucky. And it's not just me affected there. There's also a story last week where a huge 3PL brokerage firm in the same space, without notice, shuttered the door, and 135 of our neighbors lost their jobs too. It's not just me or my family that's going to get hurt here. There's a lot of good people that do damn good work, and this is an industry with razor-thin margins. And we just can't afford the regulation. That's what it boils down to.
Well, again, Danny, I'm sorry to hear that, man. And if anybody has a spot for Danny at their company, shoot me a text at 615-737-9986. Danny, stay in touch,
God
man, all right?
Brother.
Stay in touch, all right? All right, God bless. Shout out to Danny. That's tough, man. That's hard. I wonder if Kamala Harris will be asked about this in an interview. The job loss and the layoffs, or the fake job reports numbers. They had to revise the job reports numbers down from it was like 1 million jobs. They said actually 819,000 of those weren't real. Weird. Kamala Harris is going to be sitting for an interview. I know it's incoming. She's reportedly going to be sitting for an interview this week as part of her campaign's ramped up strategy heading into the post-Labor Day push, Axios reported on Monday. She's not held an unscripted press conference or an unscripted sit-down interview about policy solutions for 37 days since joining the presidential race. The media have not interviewed Harris on television since June 24th, 2024. And the last time the press reportedly questioned her at a solo news conference was 8 months ago, December of 2023. So Harris is avoiding the media for a couple of reasons. The campaign is worried that she's going to make a fool of herself. Her likability and her ability to speak off the cuff is not. She's not able to do it without messing up. And there's a lot of word salad that we could play for you, which I won't, but it's there. And then the other thing is that the Harris campaign is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're talking about all these things that they're going to fix, whether it's crime or inflation or border security. And if she talks about that, she's forgetting that she's the VP currently. And she puts the Biden-Harris administration in a hard spot because they've been telling us for months, years, that they've solved all of those issues or that the issues never existed in the first place. So she has to really navigate through that, and Kamala Harris isn't the one that can do it. But we're hearing chatter that she could be sitting down for an interview very, very soon. Politico Playbook speculated about which media member the campaign would select to do the interview, and they're quoted as saying, already we're hearing chatter about who she will choose to conduct the interview, a known friendly face who she can expect will take it easy on her. Or in a bid to erase memories of her rocky Lester Holt interview in 2021, a member of vaunted legacy media outlet who will give her a tougher grilling. Place your bets. We should find out in days. So they're saying it's incoming. It's incoming. The interview's incoming. And meanwhile, the Harris campaign is going to, they're on a bus tour. They're on a bus tour. Georgia, and they're going to go to Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina. Those are the big states. They're on a bus tour right now, though, through southern Georgia. So they're working, and the interview should be coming soon. CNN caught up with Harris campaign intern, is how the Trump War Room on Twitter put it, but I think he's an advisor, Ian Sams. And they asked him about the interview.
And one of the places that she may be able to speak to her views on a variety of issues is in an in-depth interview. After stealing. And one of the places that she may be able to speak to her views on a variety of issues is in an in-depth interview with a journalist. This is something that she has not done since President Biden stepped away. I admit, as a member of the press, this is something that we place a priority on. But I think there are a lot of anxious Democrats, there are a lot of independents and undecideds across this country who would like to hear more from her in more depth on specific issues. When is that going to happen?
Well, as the vice president said, and I think you all know, she said that she's going to schedule an interview by the end of the month. I think everybody can look at a calendar.
Look at a calendar. We said by the end of the month. What don't you idiots understand? Like the way he just thumbs his nose, even at CNN, and then looks down upon him like a plebe.
I think everybody can look at a calendar.
Okay. Well, what a clown.
I think everybody can look at a calendar.
Yeah, and we are looking at a calendar. And you haven't given an interview in quite some time. You haven't given a press conference in quite some time. Last televised interview was June 24th, 2024. The last time the press reportedly questioned her at a solo news conference was 8 months ago, December 2nd, 2023. So when Ian Sams says,
I think everybody can look at a calendar.
Yeah, we can, and that's part of the problem. It's actually a huge part of the problem, is that we can look at a calendar. Yeah. Bonnie in the borough wants to talk about rhinos. What's up, Bonnie? You're next on Super Talk.
Okay, I just have something short to say. I think, you can look at relationships and see what a mess our country's in. And this relationship has been staunch for a long, long time. George W. Bush is best friends with Barack Obama. His wife is best friends with Michelle Obama. Now, why would a real Republican who loves America be best friends with a Marxist communist and his wife? That, to me, says it all. That's all I have to say, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, Bonnie. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Bush. I don't know how good of friends they are with Barack Obama, though. I don't know. Are they pals? Do they play pickleball together? I don't know.
Doing shots on the weekend.
Yeah, you want to go hit the bar?
Yo, Barack. Hey, Barry.
I wouldn't go paddleboarding with him. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely not.
No, I wouldn't. So we do have an interview incoming from Kamala Harris. The New York Times is admitting that joy is not a strategy. Did you see that? It said the New York Times ran an article and said joy is not a strategy. No, I don't know if they have a strategy. I do know that Kamala Harris still has no policies on her website after the Democrat convention. But an interview's incoming. Maybe before we get an interview, we could get a pandemic. Maybe. Do you know that there's lockdowns happening? Voluntary lockdowns happening at a town in Massachusetts? Yep. Pandemic. Mosquito disease. I'll tell you about it next. This is actually, it's crazy. Remember who was working on GMO mosquitoes? Anybody remember? I think that's a rabbit hole for another day. I'll tell you about this Massachusetts town next. It's 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Why today's rescue of an Israeli hostage was unlike any other. Coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 10:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. So, mosquito pandemic. You ready for that? You guys excited? Massachusetts town implements voluntary evening lockdowns to curb the spread of a deadly mosquito-borne disease. Weird. The Oxford Board of Health voted on Wednesday to recommend that residents remain indoors after 6 p.m. until the end of September. Until the end of September. Kids got baseball. Kids got football. No. After 6, please head inside.
Massachusetts and 3 neighboring towns have a reason for concern as mosquitoes carrying a potentially deadly virus called Eastern Equine Encephalitis, or Triple E, infected a resident who is now fighting for his life.
We don't want to see another human case of Triple E this year.
The rare but dangerous disease can cause swelling in the brain. There's no treatment and anyone can get infected.
So this stuff always pops up at the most convenient times. I feel for the guy that got it. Triple E, Eastern Equine Encephalitis. And now Massachusetts town are asking residents to lock down over this.
The death rate is as high as 30%.
Yikes.
Even if you do survive, usually there are long-term significant health impacts, neurological impacts.
Oxford has been declared a critical risk for Triple E, prompting health department officials to recommend a 6 p.m. curfew for outdoor activities, including club sports.
These are recommendations. They're not hard and stop requirements.
These are recommendations right now. These are recommendations right now.
We are definitely nervous about it.
Sarah Fournier is also worried her children's sports seasons, football and cheer, could be jeopardized. But they're taking precautions by wearing mosquito repellent and long sleeve tops.
We can't stop life. They need to get out there. They need to play. This is their time to be social with their friends and be a part of a team.
Now, Triple E symptoms usually begin between 4 to 10 days after being bitten by an infected mosquito. According to the CDC, now some of those symptoms can include fever, headache, and seizures. Nora?
It's very convenient, isn't it, that this stuff pops up right at these times? Listen, I hope everybody stays healthy out there, but I'm not signing up for voluntary lockdowns. And I may purchase some stock in bug spray. Not financial advice, just what I'm looking at. Nicole Shanahan, RFK's VP, says that she is full in on Team Trump, all the way in. She told him that in an interview with Chris Cuomo. I'll play that for you next. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. It's a success. The Israeli military rescued one of the hostages who was abducted in the Hamas October 7th attack. Jordana Miller has the story from Jerusalem.
Israeli special forces carrying out another daring rescue operation, bringing home a live hostage from Hamas captivity. 52-year-old Farhan al-Qadi, an Arab citizen and father of 11. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari says based on precise intelligence, forces rescued al-Qadi from a tunnel under southern Gaza. Doctors at Soroka Hospital say al-Qadi lost considerable weight, but he's in general good condition.
This was the first rescue of a hostage that was being kept in a tunnel. All the other hostages were rescued above ground. Well, the charges just got stiffer in the case of a former Nashville security guard accused of punching a bar customer to death. Channel 4 says Richard Cornelius was facing aggravated assault, but the medical examiner in June ruled Austin Turner's death outside Tin Roof Bar in February was a homicide from blunt force trauma to the head. Turner's family decided to take him off of life support after he spent weeks in a coma. The charge has been upgraded to aggravated assault resulting in death. Cornelius scheduled for arraignment September 25th. And members of the U.S. House Task Force on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump visited the site at the Butler Farm Show Fairgrounds yesterday. The chairman of the committee, Republican Pennsylvania Congressman Mike Kelly, told Fox News He can't get over the so-called frozen response from law enforcement when they first spotted the gunman.
There are places we could have been stationed, but we weren't stationed. And the question is, why weren't we? But the one that always is going to linger with me, if you have eyesight and you say there's somebody suspicious here and you've had a sighting of them, why in the world would you let former President Trump come out and stand at that podium?
Tennessee Republican Congressman Mark Green is a member of the task force. They say part of their goal is to help restore confidence in Americans that their leaders are protected. Florida is joining 26 states, including Tennessee, in enforcing bans or restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors. A federal appeals court issued a ruling yesterday that allows Florida to block minors from being prescribed puberty blockers and hormonal treatments, even with their parents' permission. Florida will also block adults from receiving transgender treatment from nurses or other medical practitioners, only allowing care from a doctor. And with terrifying stories about home invasions and break-ins making headlines nationwide, one way to keep burglars away from your house might be to make your home a little less visible. Here's Jim Ryan.
There's no hard evidence that burglars are using Google Street View to plan their break-ins, but, says law enforcement specialist Bruce Thomas,
they're probably using all sorts of social media tools to gain intelligence, just as we as police officers do.
You can find your own home on Street View, click Report a Problem, and find the option to blur your place out. It's no guarantee against a break-in, but Thomas says,
what a great idea to harden your target, to make your residents a little more anonymous.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
$11:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. So remember this was a little while ago. We had Danny in the Borough call, and Danny had recently been laid off from his job.
Yeah.
And Danny, if you're listening, we've had a couple people from the same industry as you hit us up saying that you should contact them. So Danny in the Borough, this is one of the coolest parts about this gig. We said if you could help out Danny, shoot us a text. I've gotten a couple texts of people that have leads on jobs for you, Danny. So if you're still listening, Mason has all the information. You don't have to jump back on air or anything, but he can get you some numbers. One of the guys, I mean, he looks like it sounds like he runs the entire company, and he's reaching out to talk to you. So, Danny, I hope you're listening. If not, and you know Danny in the Borough, and Danny recently got laid off, tell him to call the radio station because we're making connections.
Yeah, we're here to help.
Yeah, no, it's a tough time, man, with this economy. So if Danny's listening, give us a buzz, man, and we'll put you in contact with those people. I did say that I wanted to play this clip of the interview with Nicole Shanahan and Chris Cuomo, and then I also forgot I never paid off the tease about Trump and Sean Ryan. So we're going to play some of that as well. But Nicole Shanahan was on an interview with Chris Cuomo, and she says, listen, I am all in on the Trump train, 100%.
So how did you feel about suspending the campaign and joining Trump? Just to be transparent, I thought you guys, or at least Bobby, should have endorsed nobody because I thought it would have given you more juice for the duration of this campaign because you guys would have been commentators in chief and you could have endorsed later in the process, but he decided to do it now. Were you in favor, and if so, why?
You know, let's be clear. The power of a third party, an independent movement, is to endorse ideas, not people. I'm not a Kamala Democrat, nor am I a Trump Republican. What I am is an independent American laser focused on the issues. What we did on Friday was amazing because we crossed the chasm. We found somebody who was willing to put these ideas on center stage. Millions of people, for the first time, heard Bobby's voice. Millions of people were starting to acknowledge how big of an issue the chronic health disease crisis is in this country. This is not a fringe issue anymore. Bobby is not a fringe person, as he's been mired by the MSM. He is front and center, focusing on what Americans care about most, and he had almost 30,000 people on stage on Friday shouting his name.
She's right. She got the conversation. Bobby got the conversation of health in this country mainstream. The conversation about poisons in our food, the seed oils, the food dyes, the ultra-processed crap that we're feeding our kids. And if you're looking at your third party as, you know, a place for ideas, well, you just lined up with a candidate that's going to help you get those ideas accomplished in Donald J. Trump. And the big picture here is just that. You have some things that you want to get done. You can get them done with Trump. I think she's absolutely right.
And, you know, President Trump, to his credit, put out a hand, shook his hand and said, let's do this. Let's engage on ideas that matter. Let's engage on policies that matter. We don't have to agree on everything. This is not us being absorbed into the Trump camp by any measure. This is a partnership. This is a meeting of the minds with strong boundaries and expectations.
And she's right. And listen, Bobby and Trump have been on record saying we're going to be able to disagree. That's one of the key things that this team of rivals that they're putting together are saying. We're going to disagree. And there are major issues with Robert F. Kennedy which conservatives are going to disagree. Whether it's his views on abortion or his Green New Deal views, we're going to disagree 100%. But there are issues that we do agree. The way the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industrial complex have gone, it needs to be reined in. Those things we can agree on. And Robert F. Kennedy helped us bring that mainstream.
What are the boundaries?
Well, I think the thing is we don't overlap perfectly, but we do overlap on 5 key things, and we got to stick to those 5 key things. That is free speech, very important. Anti-war, ending these endless wars we're in overseas, putting that money back into America, putting Americans first, really trying to figure out how to create stability in our foreign policy. Chronic health, obviously, this is the biggest one. We want families to know that they are going to be met with credible health care honest healthcare, and no more censorship. That's a really, really big one. So as long as we stay within these core principles of this coalition, we're going to do great things, and I have great optimism.
As long as they stay within those core things, I think that everybody in the Conservative Party can say that this is a good thing. This is a good thing. You know, I have a friend, Alex Clark. She runs a podcast, and she put out a long thing. She's been hyper-focused on health since I've known her. She works over at Turning Point USA. She runs a great podcast for the Red Pilled Mom Club out there. That's a great podcast for you to look at. But she put out a great post that I want to read to you. She said, I've been saying for over a year and a half that health and wellness issues are a top interest of conservative female voters. Many ignored me, didn't take it seriously, or thought I simply had no idea what I was talking about because my following is niche and not the largest compared to other commentators on the right. The difference is my following is like a sisterhood sorority. I've spent time for 5 years developing a real relationship with them, talking to them every day. And because of that, I've correctly been able to identify cultural trends within this group quicker than others. I decided to do an entire rebrand to position my podcast as a health and wellness podcast exclusively. Despite several people telling me I was pigeonholing myself into a mistake by hyper-focusing on this, we now see the national conservative conversation turning to these issues. You're seeing it in real time. And moms out there, they're paying attention to this stuff. They've been paying attention to this stuff for a long time. I see it on the super text sign. Anytime I bring up the food industry or the medical industry, do you know who reaches out the most in our audience? The moms and the grandmothers. One of the biggest fears about Donald Trump was the suburban female vote. Focusing on health and wellness is going to bring that suburban female vote in and shore it up. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So I'm here for it. I'm excited about this. I really am. And Trump, they've accused him of being off message, off brand, not focused. Well, he's actually been on message, on brand, hyper focused. And yesterday he was at Arlington Cemetery. Today, yesterday he was at Arlington Cemetery, and he also had a podcast released with Sean Ryan. And Sean Ryan has a huge audience as well, veteran audience. A lot of people in our audience constantly send me his clips. I always watch his clips. I listen to his interviews. He does some great interviews. Well, Trump sat down with him to speak to him. And again, Trump staying on message, on point.
This country's not ready for a Marxist or a communist. This country's not ready for somebody that wants to defund the police. That said, there will never be fracking in our country. If we don't frack, if we don't drill for oil and gas, we won't have a country.
Is that not on message? Is that not on brand? We need to be energy dominant, energy independent again. I think that's on message. Sean Ryan asked him if there's anything that he would like the veteran community to know.
Sir, is there anything that you would like the veteran population to know about what you think of them?
That I love them, that I respect them, that I rebuilt our military, that I got budgets that nobody's ever gotten, that I increased their pay because of the respect I have. Now, if you take a look at what's happening with the military, it's horrible.
I hope Trump gets in and actually funds the military even more. In 1988, our military budget was closer to 6% of our GDP. Today, in 2024, it's about 3% of our GDP. And when you look around the world and the instability that Biden-Harris has caused, we absolutely need to ramp that up. We have to. We have to. And he continues on in this podcast, and this dropped yesterday, and he talked about Afghanistan, which obviously the anniversary of the Abbey bombing just passing, and that it's heartbreaking, but you have to remind people what happened in Afghanistan, because a lot of these voters, this could be your first election, right? So if it's your first election that you're voting in and you're 18, 19, well, then you were 15, 16 when Afghanistan, the withdrawal happened. It's not as present in your mind. But these guys are watching these podcasts nonstop. They're on Instagram. They're hitting the reels, and this kind of stuff needs to be brought up again and again and again. And this is what Trump said about wanting to get out of Afghanistan.
I wanted to get out, but I wanted to get out with dignity and strength. I spoke to the head of the Taliban on numerous occasions because they were killing our soldiers. They were snipers, and they were killing our soldiers during Obama and a little bit during me at the beginning. And I heard about it. And I said, get the head of the Taliban. And the press went crazy when they heard I was speaking to him on a telephone. And I told them in a, pretty tough way, but nice enough, don't do it. Abdul, his name is Abdul. He's still there. He's still the head. And I said, don't do it. And he understood that. And in 18 months, not one person was killed. You know that during my time.
Yes.
Nobody would have been killed.
No, people forget about that. 18 months, not a soldier killed. Unbelievable what he was able to do. And he wanted to get out, and he had a plan to get out. Biden botched the plan. He botched it. And things changed. Things absolutely changed when Biden got into office.
Then we had a rigged election, and they took over, and it started. It started in a lot of places. Russia started to form along the border. Would have never happened if I was president. But and by the way, October 7th would have never happened in Israel because Iran was broke. They had no money to do anything. Now they have $300 billion. They made it all in the last 3.5 years. I said, anybody that buys I just wanted to have a deal with Iran. Very simple deal. Can't have a nuclear weapon. That's it. I want them to be happy. I want them to have great lives. I want them to have a great country. Can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. And I would have had that deal done within a week after the election. But the election was a disgrace to our country, another disgrace. But with Afghanistan, you had to get out. But we were going to get out with dignity and strength.
Yeah, and then the flip side is Biden got out in the middle of the night and left all the military equipment behind. Don't forget, they didn't just leave behind the military equipment. They left behind the trained dogs. Do you remember those pictures? They left behind the dogs in their kennels in the dead of night. At Bagram Airport, you see the pictures, and it's all these dogs. How could they do that? And then they lost 13 service members. It's disgusting. It needs to be shouted from the rooftops because people are going to forget about this. New voters aren't going to know about this. If you were 15 when this happened and you're voting in your first election, you can be easily swayed by social media and by Kamala Harris propaganda. Show your young guys in your life, your young kids who are voting for the first time. I say young because they're younger than me, but show those 18-year-olds the pictures of the dogs that they left behind in Afghanistan. It was disgusting. Do you want a continuation of this? Is that what you want? On the flip side, we had Donald Trump, and Trump had not one problem, not one death in 18 months when he was in charge.
We didn't have one problem for 18 months with them, and the Taliban's rough. They're good fighters. They're ancient fighters in a way, their equipment and everything else, but they're good, very good fighters. But we had no problems. And then when this happened, and when I was out, they heard that the military was gone. And I could just imagine somebody coming back and saying, Abdul, the Americans have left. The soldiers are gone. He probably said, you fool. Don't ever tell me that nobody could be so stupid.
Yeah, he probably did. Trump had a lot more to say during this interview with Sean Ryan, and he also took aim at NATO and how we're being taken advantage of on the foreign stage. And I think it's really important to point out that when you listen to Donald Trump speak, understand that Kamala Harris could never do an interview like this. Never. She could never speak this clearly. She could never be this authoritative. She could never hold the reins like this. She just couldn't. It's not in her arsenal. Not one bit. But Trump does it flawlessly. Flawlessly. I'll play you what he has to say about NATO, and then we're going to talk about those debates as well. I am looking forward to the debate party, Scoreboard, Cedar Creek, September 10th in Mount Juliet. Wilson's going to be doing his whole show out there. Then myself, Murphy, Mandis, the whole squad, we want to watch the debate with you. September 10th. Make sure you join us out there. On the way, more from Trump and Sean Ryan talking about NATO. It's 11:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Delta explosion, at least 2 dead. Details coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 11:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Sorry, I was just listening to the beat underneath me. This is one of my favorite ones. So good.
So good.
Little Mobb Deep. I see Ken head bobbing back there.
As you should.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So we were talking about poison in our food, and I'm looking through this text line, and BC texted, and he said, "Dang, Chris, I'm pulling into a fast food joint now to get food, and you're talking about poison in our food. And I simply said,
don't do it. Don't do it.
That's what I said. And he said, I didn't. I left. I'll fix something fresh at home.
Smart.
Based.
Smart.
I had literally had this conversation with my kids last night. We were leaving baseball. We had a baseball game. And kids played great. They did awesome. But my son, Brooks, he's paying attention. I always say, they put cartoon characters on the products that they shouldn't be advertising to kids. They never have to advertise broccoli like that or bananas. If it's good for you, you don't need commercials. So he's like, can we get something at McDonald's? And I said,
don't do it.
And he said, oh, yeah, you're right. And he came up with it on his own. He's like, they put toys in that to trick us, don't they?
100%. He's
100%,
learning.
100%.
You've taught him right.
And then I started saying, the bacteria won't eat that food. And then he just had that glazed over look in his eye, and he wasn't following anymore. I said, I'll elaborate a little bit more when you get older. But short answer was,
don't do it.
Don't.
Makes sense.
It does. Oh, that's a good callback. Donald Trump, he was talking on the Sean Ryan podcast, and he was going in about NATO. And Trump always brings up good points. And when he talks about NATO, I really want you to ask yourself, can Kamala Harris talk this same talk like Trump can when it comes to NATO? Because Trump goes in on NATO and foreign policy, foreign trade. This is a big area where Trump really excelled, where nobody even saw it coming in 2016 with that presidency.
It's a very unfair thing. NATO, for us, is a very unfair thing. But the worst part is Europe to us on trade is horrible. They don't take our farm products. They don't take our cars. I said to Angela Merkel, Angela, how many Chevrolets do you have in the middle of Germany? She said, none. I said, that's right. How many do you have in Munich? She said, none. I said, that's right. You know how many Mercedes-Benzes, BMWs, and Volkswagens? We have millions. I said, it's going to have to change. They take advantage of us on trade, not quite like China, but not that far off. We lose $250 billion a year with Europe trading with Europe.
It's wild to hear him talk like this because, A, he's not wrong, and B, could you see Kamala Harris having a similar conversation with leadership in Germany? I understand Angela Merkel is no longer there, but could you see her having that kind of a conversation? I couldn't. I don't even think she would know where to start. She might just say, we love Mercedes, actually. It's a great car. But for Trump to go in there, Angela, how many Chevys do we have in Germany? None. Oh, weird, because we have millions. We have millions of Mercedes and BMWs and Volvos over here in America. That's not fair. And it's not. We're getting ripped off not by just our enemies, but also by our allies. Who's going to right the ship? It ain't Kamala Harris. I'll play you more about what Trump has to say about NATO in this interview next. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and right now it is traffic, specifically Briley Parkway and Lebanon Pike. Right now you got the off-ramp blocked, Briley Parkway northbound to eastbound Lebanon Pike. Then Lebanon Pike, both the east and westbound lanes are blocked between Briley Parkway and Fairway Drive, and this is due to police activity. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. At least 2 Delta Airlines employees were killed in a reported explosion inside one of the airline's maintenance facilities inside the Atlanta airport. Faith Abube is on the scene in Atlanta with the latest.
From the preliminary information, what we can say at this point is that around 5 o'clock this morning, there were calls to the police department and the fire department to respond to a Delta Technical Operations Maintenance Facility here on the Atlanta airport grounds. There are 2 people who have died. A third person is injured.
Money news, the Dow is backing away from yesterday's record high close. Apple has sent out invitations to a September 9th unveiling. Jim Ryan tells us.
Coming off yesterday's record high close, the Dow Jones this morning was slightly lower. The Standard & Poor's 500 headed into the midday higher by 0.1%, while the Nasdaq was up 0.14%. Despite rising mortgage rates, home prices reached the highest level ever on the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index. Prices in June were nearly 5.5% higher than in June of last year. Canada says it'll put a 100% tariff on electric vehicles made in China, matching the tariff the U.S. already has in place. Western countries say Chinese government subsidies to car makers tilt the playing field. And Apple is sending out invitations to a September 9th event. The next generation iPhone and new AI features are expected to be unveiled. Industry watchers predict the new iPhone 16 will have larger screens on its Pro models and a dedicated button for snapping photos.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
It's a very unfair thing. NATO, for us, is a very unfair thing. But the worst part is Europe to us on trade is horrible. They don't take our farm products. They don't take our cars. I said to Angela Merkel, Angela, how many Chevrolets do you have in the middle of Germany? She said, none. I said, that's right. How many do you have in Munich? She said, none. I said, that's right. You know how many Mercedes-Benzes, BMWs, and Volkswagens? We have millions. I said, it's going to have to change. They take advantage of us on trade, not quite like China, but not that far off. We lose $250 billion a year with Europe, trading with Europe.
That's Trump talking with Sean Ryan about how we're getting taken advantage of when it comes to foreign trade with Europe. He's discussing a conversation he had with Angela Merkel in Germany. I mistakenly said Volvo after that clip, to which the super text line crowdsourced a correction.
They absolutely lit you up.
It's like, you idiot. Volvo's Swedish.
You don't understand?
My bad. I misspoke.
I did respond to the Swedish part, and I was like, hey, say what you want about the Swedish. They do make some good meatballs.
Yeah, people like the Swedish meatballs.
Yeah, thanks, IKEA.
But I listened to this Trump clip. Did I do the Super Talk 99.7 WTN thing? It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I listened to this clip. I listened to this clip, and I just find myself going, Kamala can't talk about this stuff. Kamala can't negotiate these things. Can she do anything? I mean, she's stolen Trump's no tax on tips. Then she went for price controls. And have you seen the latest? She's now for border walls. She's supporting building a border wall. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Isn't she still in office?
Yeah.
Couldn't she do something about that?
100%.
No.
She is, but she is surface level only. Surface level only. So she couldn't have these conversations. She couldn't talk in depth the way Trump can. And again, I made the point earlier. I'll make it again. This was like one of those happy surprises about the Trump presidency. Foreign policy was a big question mark. And he ended up leaving office with just an A+ on foreign policy. And it was stuff like this, getting NATO to pay. And he talks about the NATO deal with Sean Ryan here.
So we defend them because the NATO deal was so bad, but I made it much better and I got them to pay. And 2% is too little, by the way, also. That 2% is not the right number. But I got them to pay, so we defend them. A very bad deal for us. We were paying, before I got there, I say we were paying 90% of the cost of NATO.
90%?
Yes, and I hate to use this word because you have some young, brilliant future soldiers watching, but they screw us on trade. So they screw us on trade, and we're defending them. It's always a one-way street.
Yeah, and Trump really highlighted that one-way street during his presidency, and he got them to cough up more money for NATO. Meanwhile, we're embroiled in the Russia-Ukraine conflict where we continue to send billions upon billions of dollars over there because NATO, is Ukraine a NATO country yet? It's just chaos. It's chaos. But this is where we're at. It's always a one-way street with foreign policy. It's always a one-way street when you're America. We have to take everybody in. We can't worry about our own citizens. We have to be the world police, but we can't police our own borders. It's always a one-way street. That's going to end come November 5th. It's going to end. And Trump doesn't just talk about NATO. He talks about trade deals with South Korea and Japan and China.
When I came in, we had such bad trade deals with South Korea, with Japan. Abe was great, by the way. He's a great man. He got assassinated.
R.I.P.
But we had such bad trade deals with so many countries. China. I made a great trade deal with China. They have to buy $50 billion a year of our product. But I don't even talk about it because when COVID came in, it was such a bad, I had a great relationship with President Xi, and I will again. And I don't see... A lot of people think, you have to be tough with this. We have so many advantages, but we're not going to have the advantages long if we don't get smart, because our country's going bad, and now we have really stupid people running our country.
Yeah, we do. Hopefully not for long. I think we're really going to see some tides turn come the debate on September 10th. We're going to be live at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek, and Mount Juliet. We're going to be watching the whole debate there. We invite you to come out. I do know that there's another party in the works for the J.D. Vance-Tim Walz debate, which, have you seen the Tim Walz dog story? Has anybody seen the Tim Walz dog story? He's got 2 Twitter posts. One was on, I guess, like National Dog Day. I'm paraphrasing, so give me some grace. One was like on National Dog Day, and he's hugging a good-looking black lab, good-looking dog. And he's like, oh, it's National Dog Day. You know, look at this guy. Look at Scout. And he's like, love this Scout. Okay? That, again, paraphrasing. But he's like, oh, man, I got a great dog here. Look at my dog. I'm an American, and, you know, look at me. I'm Midwestern, folksy Tim Walz, and I got a dog.
Everyday guy.
That was the post, right? Look at me. And then 4 months later, he has another post, and he's like, hey, look at me. I'm just folksy Midwestern Tim Walz, and I'm out here at the dog park and enjoying nature with my dog, Scout. Look at Scout. I love this dog. Okay, in the first post, Scout was a black lab. In the second post, Scout is no longer a black lab. Scout is now like a speckled white and brown, different kind of dog. 4 months apart. Both posts acknowledging Scout.
Hey, man, we all go through different hairstyle phases. I'm just, some people want to dye their hair. Some people want to get creative.
I can't wait for these debates.
My gosh.
I think that the debates are going to be the end of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And Tim Walz, if you can lie about the small things, you can lie about the big things. He's been lying about anything and everything. Even Tom Emmer, who is an anti-Trump Republican. He's not a Trump fan at all. He's a senator in Minnesota. He's like, Tim Walz is a serial liar, and he's such a big liar, he's putting Minnesota in play for Trump. That's how bad Tim Walz is. Even the Never Trumpers are like, what is this guy doing? So I think the debates are really going to be a shock for a lot of people. And they're arguing about the stipulations. Now Kamala Harris wants live mics. Donald Trump is like, no, we agreed to the rules. We can mute the mics. I think that they thought the muted mics were going to help Biden, and it helped Trump. And I think that the calculation is they want that viral clip of Kamala Harris going, I'm speaking, the same way she did to Pence. You remember that? Because that was a viral moment from the Harris-Pence debate. That I'm speaking. And I think she wants that again. She wants to be able to say that. That's what she wants. But I think her poll numbers are going to tank after that debate. And they were looking for the poll numbers to give a bounce after the Democrat National Convention, after the DNC, where they're burning flags outside throughout the DNC. And it was so unifying. It was the most united ever, Chuck Schumer said. Kamala Harris has gotten no boost from the DNC, according to polling done by the Daily Mail. There's a new Morning Consult poll, and Kamala Harris still has the same lead as she had before the DNC. 4 points, which I think that's a joke. I think that lead is fabricated, personally. But they couldn't even fabricate a bounce after the DNC. The most united DNC ever, where people are burning flags in the street. It was so united. It was so united. Also, yesterday, I wanted to get to this too. Donald Trump said that he wants to make flag burning illegal.
They were burning the American flag. I want to get a law passed. Everyone tells me, oh, sir, it's very hard. You burn an American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. Got to do it. We got to do it. They say it's not constitutional. They say, sir, that's unconstitutional. We'll make it constitutional. We're going to make it constitutional. But you burn an American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. That was terrible. What happened at the convention in Chicago? They're burning American flags all over the place, and the fake news doesn't want to show it.
No. The fake news didn't show any of that. The fake news said it was the most unified, uniting DNC ever. Chuck Schumer said that. They're burning flags all over the place. At one point outside the DNC, Ben Burkham, who's a reporter for Real America's Voice, almost was brutally assaulted by Antifa because he tried to stop them from burning a flag. I like the idea of a law against burning the American flag. I do. Other countries wouldn't tolerate it. Why should we tolerate it? I don't think it'll ever get passed. But I think the sentiment is there that he cares for this country so much, he doesn't want to see people desecrate it. And you know what? The National Guard Association, who he was speaking to, they loved it. They respect that. They're willing to fight and put their lives on the line for this flag, and you're going to let some loser outside the DNC burn it? It's garbage. It's garbage. So, I mean, I would like to see it. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's cool to hear Trump say that out loud. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy is waiting in the wings. I see him. He's pacing back and forth outside there. He's got some hot takes. He always does. He's going to let us know what kind of hot takes we can expect today on The Murphy Show when he joins us next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's 11:55. I just filled in Murphy on old Tim Wallace's dog Scout.
Scout is transitioned. Is that right?
Yeah. Never mentioned this on the air because I get the text. Scout just no longer identifies as a black lab.
I counted through. I think I saw 12 like immediately after you said that.
Yep.
Normally it's the other way around, right?
Yep.
Normally you're going the other way.
Brewster said maybe Christy Noem took the original Scout on a walk.
It's brutal.
You guys are the best.
Man, oh man.
I love it.
Dog lovers.
All right. How you feeling? What is
I'm great.
You got a burr in your bonnet? What is it? Is it a burr in your bonnet and a bee in your saddle?
Yeah, it's a bee in the saddle and a burr in the bonnet. So, first off, I'm listening this morning. You know, I love listening to me some Chris Hand. Love listening to Nashville's Morning News. And the best segment on Nashville's Morning News is the Gang of Four Amigos.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic.
I only catch half of Nashville's Morning News because I sleep in, but whatever. And I'm listening to the Amigos, and I love how what was, to me, a simple conversation in a parking lot yesterday morning became a neurotic crisis for Dan Mandis. Because I want to tell my version of what happened. And for those of you who missed it, listen to Nashville's Morning News. Dan's version was that Matt was playing this master prank on him. There was no meeting, and everyone was in on it. And then suddenly Allison... So I was in the meeting. You know, when Dan said, oh, she complimented me, and I sat there and wondered why she complimented him because he deserved a compliment.
Okay. What was the compliment again?
It was congratulating him on leading the team to several Tennessee Association of Broadcasting awards and several other things. I mean, it was certainly a worthy accomplishment to compliment. So I'm in the parking lot, and Dan's leaving, and Dan is known to skip out on meetings. And I thought it was funny because he's no longer the fearless leader outside of the morning show where he's the fearless leader. And I thought, taking the opportunity now that you're not PD, you're getting out of here, huh? And he freaks out in the parking lot. Freaks out. Starts checking his phone in the middle of the parking lot. What meeting? What meeting? Insane, man. Then we go in. This is the best part, though. I said there's a meeting, and he's convinced that I'm lying to him for no reason. And I'm like, why would I be here at 9:30 in the morning if there were no meeting?
This is true.
And we get into the door. He follows me back inside, and we see Kenny Smooth. And he mentioned this, but it was great because he said, Kenny, do you know about this meeting? And Kenny said, what meeting? And from then on, Dan was convinced there was no meeting. It was awesome. I don't know. I love Dan Mandis.
Yeah, you guys had fun at the meeting, though?
Oh, it was great. It was a great meeting. Leaned against the wall. No, actually, I was sitting. I was sitting on a stool. Got a lot of good eye contact with our fellow stablemates here at Cumulus Nashville. It was fun. Fun meeting. It was like, I don't know, 40 people in the meeting.
It's a good meeting.
I think everybody had fun. So we do this while we're talking about internal business. I don't know if any other companies do this. I assume they do. We do these internal surveys that are anonymous, and they
anonymously attached to your email.
Allegedly. Well, they go through a third party, and I'm sure that they figure out a way that they make them anonymous because if people aren't truthful, then they serve zero purpose. I suppose. Yeah. But one way or the other, nobody fills them out because nobody believes they're really anonymous. And so we have 100. You want to get? I shouldn't be telling the story. 150 employees at Cumulus Nashville through our cluster of stations. Yeah. How many surveys got turned in?
12.
26.
Really?
26.
That's not a good retention rate.
That's not a good return. Ooh. That's not a good rate of return.
I feel like more of Kamala Harris's original staff stuck around during her time as VP than people that filled out surveys at Cumulus Nashville.
Fewer people. Kamala Harris has changed her position on more major issues in the American political race than people turned in their surveys at Cumulus Nashville. And so I told Allison, I said, I'll get these surveys in. You say the word. I'll go around. I'll hound them. I'll get after their ass. I mean, I'll go. And she's like, no. I don't think we need to bully people into doing a culture survey.
I think bullying, actually, we should bring it back. Make bullying great again.
I think it'd be great.
Get your survey done.
It'd be fabulous.
What do you got coming up on the show, big man?
We are talking, I don't know, there's a presidential contest. I figured out Kamala Harris's campaign platform. I figured out her campaign slogan, and I'm going to unveil it. I gave you a little preview.
Yes, don't spoil it here.
Okay.
It's too good. It's too good for the tail end of the Chris Hand Show.
Libertarian Lunch.
Hang out with Murphy. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.